Now, speaking of hate and online abuse, Bollywood actor Swara Bhaskar has been one of those individuals who's really been at the receiving end of it all. There have been several targeted, coordinated campaigns against her. How does she deal with it? We asked her. Well, we have a very special guest joining us on NDTV. Swara Bhaskar is with us. She needs no introduction. Thanks very much, Swara, for speaking with NDTV.
Thank you.
You know, this culture of online hate, it's become a normal. You've been at the receiving end of a lot of abuse online. How do you deal with it?
Well, I have been on the receiving end of a lot of hate and online abuse, so much so that I think it's kind of become like part of my identity. I think like more than people remembering that I'm an actor, people remember me for the fact that I'm a Twitter warrior or, I don't know, the most hated sort of Bollywood personality on the internet. But honestly, it's been going on for 6-7 years. So I've actually, I think now begun to just wear it on my sleeve and be like, I've owned it. I'm like, yes, because, you know, there's no point denying it. There's no point trying to hide from it. It reflects a certain reality of what our society has become, what public culture in India has become.
You know, just taking off from the engagement, why is it that Swara Bhaskar is targeted? There are a lot of other Bollywood personalities, celebrities, actors who've chosen to sort of remain silent, if I may use that word, or not engage with trolls online. But you've always taken trolling head on. You name and shame, you troll back, if I may say so. You know, that's a brave way to deal with things.
Yeah, it depends on my mood, really. Well, I think that why I'm more particularly hated, I don't know, I suppose we'll have to ask them that. Sometimes I console myself saying that it's actually a kind of love. They're only just obsessed with me. But I think honestly what it is that I think it's because I do engage and because I don't stay silent, that thing keeps coming back. And a lot of people have said to me that I should keep quiet and that I should ignore because by engaging you're only giving them more attention. The reason I do engage is because my understanding is that this kind of targeted abuse and slander online and in the social media sphere is basically a form of bullying. And it's basically an attempt to silence certain voices that this section, which is now becoming larger, noisier, and has sanction from the powers that be, let me say that quite frankly, I think we all know that, it's an attempt to silence voices that they don't like to hear, or voices that sort of counter the narrative that they are trying to spin and put into our society fairly successfully. And so that is the reason why I feel it's important to engage, because I think that there is a certain value to saying no and to resisting hate when it is becoming so obviously normalized in our society. And that's all my attempt really is. Targeted, it's organized, and it's relentless. And I'm not alone in this. There are certain names who are sort of constant victims, you know what I mean? And they all belong to a certain kind of ideological leaning, which is progressive, which is liberal, which is a voice of dissent. And I simply say to everyone who asks me, why do you do it? I'm like, I do it so that other young people, especially young girls, realize that you don't have to be ashamed, that it's not on you. It is not your shame nor your burden to bear. You are a victim and you should not be silenced and you should not be blamed.
What is the kind of response you've got from social media giants, be it Twitter, Facebook? Have you reported abuse? What's the response that you've got?
Well, I mean, I have reported a number of tweets over time, and the response has been, in some cases, the platforms have an algorithm, obviously, right? In some cases where the algorithm is able to kick in and enough number of reports come on particular tweets, they have been taken down. In my case, I would say at least four or five times tweets have been removed.
4-5 times out of how many that you may have reported?
I mean, out of countless times. And there has been a couple of times when they were initially not reported and then I had to sort of, you know, put in some applications and show that this was actually criminal offense, because a lot of these tweets actually quite simply fall into the category of IPC sections that are, you know, outraging a woman's modesty. I mean, that are crimes. They're cyber crimes. And so in those cases, Twitter or Facebook has been able to act and take them down, Instagram. But a lot of times, of course, it doesn't fall into the purview of whatever the platform finds as a violation.
The question really, Swara, is enough being done as far as, deterring trolls or those who indulge in, abuse against women, against people who don't toe their line, like you said, because it does appear that troll armies continue to function with a degree of impunity.
I mean, I definitely think that social media companies, platforms and big tech has to do more. There's no doubt about that. And I think that that is something that across the world people now agree on, right? Because just the scale at which these platforms exist and the kind of power they have to platform voices is so immense, right? But I would sort of add a small proviso in the context of India especially, which is that the phenomena of the proliferation of this kind of online hate, slander and targeted abuse campaigns, and I'm speaking from personal experience. For me, I remember the date when this started. It started the day in 2014 that Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India. I had posted a tweet that sort of talked about the Gujarat riots, and literally that is the day 7 years ago when that kind of hate began, and it has not stopped to date. It has only intensified. Now, my point is that all of this stuff is happening in a context. The fact is that our government in power today, has, over the last 7 years, created a culture, a public culture, where they have given impunity to trolls. They have encouraged them. They have not held anyone accountable for hate and slander as long as it serves the ideological purposes of the Sangh Parivar and Hindutva. This is a fact. Right. And this is stuff that has been written about, that is recorded. We've actually been in a situation where when Gauri Lankesh was assassinated and murdered, there were Twitter handles that were celebrating her murder in really vulgar and offensive language that were being followed by the Prime Minister. And there was a huge furor and they were not unfollowed. So my point is that when you have a situation when the highest political authorities in the country are okay with this kind of hate, what are the platforms going to do?
But I just want to ask you, Swara, the most recent sort of hate campaign against you, it was sexual abuse, it was personal, it was vulgar. I don't even want to dignify the hashtag by naming it here. But there was a lot of concerted, coordinated, it was a concerted, coordinated attack against you.
Well, it is, absolutely. It is organized. And you could make out from many things, which is that this is a handle that has over the last year suddenly appeared and sort of is very targeted in the kind of people it picks on. The person is a YouTube influencer. He's a young man with many followers on YouTube and some followers on Twitter as well.
Verified handle on Twitter.
It's a verified handle on Twitter. This particular person made an appearance on a video conference that Yogi Adityanath did with young influencers. So he did make an appearance there. So it's quite clear that, which side of the ideological divide this handle falls on when they had to start that tweet. And it was in response to, I had basically tweeted pointing out in a somewhat provocative manner, but in a concise manner, that this handle was spreading lies, communal in nature, and misinformation that the Ministry of Finance itself has sort of clarified. So, it's like trying to again spread misinformation and hate in society. And this particular handle gave a call to, literally like a call to their followers to attack. And that's how that handle started trending. I do have to say that Twitter did take that trend down within literally 1 hour of me complaining. They delisted the trend.
So you're saying you reported the trend, Twitter took the trend down, but this account still exists?
The account exists, and Twitter felt that the tweets itself did not violate their community guidelines and standards, which I find odd because I spoke to some lawyers and they said that the particular tweet was clearly in violation of IPC sections. It does outrage the modesty of women, very obviously. So anyway, I think that...
so the account exists, the tweets exist, it was just the trend that was taken down by Twitter. Do you plan to, since you said, this amounts to outraging the modesty of a woman, do you plan to sort of take this forward plan to register an FIR
I do.
and fight this legally?
I do. I think that it's important for us, and I know that it's the onus should not be on victims to kind of have to spend time, energy, money on like following through with this. But I think that these are important things we have to learn to take a stand. I have in the past filed FIRs against particular tweets, and police departments have taken cognizance of them. Of course, the law takes its own course, but I'm glad that they have registered those. As I said, these are crimes. We cannot be in a situation where people think that it's okay to participate in sexual harassment on a daily basis from the safety of your computer. It's just not all right.
You know, online abuse has perpetuated a culture of silence. It's conditioned people to just sit back, ignore, delete, and not sort of fight this head on. You've taken this head on. You continue to name and shame people who abuse you. But what's the mental health impact? Swara, how do you deal with it behind the scenes?
I mean, look, it's not pleasant, and also, but I have become inured to it to a certain degree, because as I said, this has been happening for 7 years now. Why should women, I mean, that itself is problematic, right? Why should a woman who has a public personality, public profile, has a public voice, have to become okay with being sexually harassed, verbally harassed every single day of her life? And again, this is not just me, let me say that. Yes. This is women across, I mean, I'm sure you may have had to face this. So women across the board, right? It's really sad for my parents, because the thing is that now, you know, all our families are online as well, right? Our parents have accounts, and I mean, my mother has in the past on more than one occasion, like literally been in tears reading the comments and being like, why do they say this about you? You're so nice and you're not like this. And I have a rule for my parents, which is that they cannot read my comments. Like I had to threaten my parents and be like, I will block you from my account if you keep reading comments, because it's not healthy for them. It's horrible to have to listen to that. So we're a country where Ram Bhakt Gopal, who is a criminal, who is on video shooting at peacefully protesting students, is literally on Twitter posting, support for Nathuram Godse.
But where does the buck stop with that? That's the question. You know, you say that this is organized, this has political sanction, but, you know, can we exonerate social media giants from their responsibility?
I think we cannot exonerate big tech, and we cannot exonerate government, our government. We cannot, because the thing is that in India, it's, you know, capital in India, I feel like the comparison between the US and India is not entirely fair, because capital is freer in the US, media is freer in the US. They have actual freedom of speech and expression, which is genuinely protected by their courts. Sorry to come back to your point about mental health. The way I deal with it is I really do take solace in the fact that I'm not alone. That this is happening to everyone. This is happening to a lot of women. And I do want to say here that I have found a lot of support and a lot of sort of solidarity also in the online space. So where hate has come, support has also come, solidarity has come. There have been many other social media users who have stood up and called out what is happening with me, and, you know, tagged Twitter, tagged police authorities and said that this is not okay. So I do take strength in that fact. And again, I do want to say, I keep thinking that this is not just my fight alone. This is our fight. This is a fight for our country, for our society, for our public space to be clear, to be clean and to be decent. And I think that we have to all participate in that. So yeah, that's really how I look at it. And yeah, it's not pleasant, and I don't read comments unless I'm in a mood for some masochism and want to torture myself, then I read comments. But otherwise, I don't look at comments. I say what I have to say.
Don't read comments is a good guide. I don't know how sustainable it is in the long run, but thank you very much, Swara, for speaking with NDTV as usual, for speaking your mind. May you always speak your truth, and may you always stand your ground. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.